Hello, y'all. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to Chapter 2 of Markiplier from North Korea. I hope y'all can see me well. If I look like a mess, I kind of am. I went for a walk, and it got really hot. So we're on Chapter 2. So, let me just flip over to it. The book is special. I don't want to mess it up. Alright. The chapter is called The Birth of Sonok Chi, Markiplier. The bus was packed with people, but my dad was lucky enough to find a seat for himself to sit down quietly. He closed his eyes as he waited for the bus to reach the last stop at the DMZ. Suddenly, out of nowhere, my dad heard a voice calling out to him. Since my dad did not have any friends or relatives in South Korea, he thought he must have been dreaming, so he continued to ignore the voice. Eventually, the person yelling his name got so close to my dad that he finally opened his eyes and looked up. A very tall, middle-aged man was standing in front of him, wearing a worn-out U.S. military jacket. The man introduced himself as Mr. Chang. He asked my dad if he was the youngest son of Mr. Chi's family from my dad's North Korean hometown. Mr. Chang's big, broad smile assured my dad that he meant no harm. Using the energy that he had left, my dad answered Mr. Chang's question by nodding a few times very quickly. Suddenly, with an even wider smile, Mr. Chang eagerly reached out his hand to shake my dad's hand. Mr. Chang said that when his family was living in North Korea, my grandparents had generously shared their farmland to prevent Mr. Chang's family from starving. As my dad listened, he sensed Mr. Chang's sincerity. Mr. Chang must have been the desperation in my dad's eyes. Suddenly, Mr. Chang made a quick suggestion for my dad to join his family for breakfast at his nearby home near the DMZ, the destination where my dad had decided to end his life. Despite my father's refusal, Mr. Chang kept insisting until my dad finally gave in. The moment that my dad agreed to follow Mr. Chang off the bus, even though my dad had not planned it, his life began to change. As he limped toward Mr. Chang's small home, my dad did not realize that was his lucky day. Upon their arrival at the house, Mr. Chang's wife remembered my dad from his younger days and would not help but see the contrast as she looked at his frail, beaten appearance. The children welcomed him into the house for a home-cooked meal. Soon, as they gathered into the small crowded room, and after listening to my dad's losses, they could not help but feel sorry for my dad. Mr. and Miss Chang exchanged knowing looks, as if they somehow wanted to repay their debt to my grandparents by helping my dad. They convinced my father to spend the night, and the following morning, Mr. Chang took my dad to his workplace at the nearby U.S. military base. Mr. Chang worked as hard at the officers' club. He was hoping to help my dad get a job at the base, and he helped him apply for a job similar to his own. Since there were thousands of people starving and without work during and after the Korean War, getting hired for a position on the base would be a game changer for my dad, giving him much better opportunities and higher pay, and improving his quality of life. With Mr. Chang's excellent recommendation, along with my dad's charming appearance, it did not take long for my dad to get his position working in housekeeping. He got assigned to cleaning the office's living quarters. By basically running into Mr. Chang, my dad's life has changed its course and was now on a totally different path. Not too long after my dad started working inside the officers' quarters, perhaps because of the harsh life he had endured during the last 3 years in South Korea, he developed a pneumothorax on the right side of his lung. Luckily, it happened while he was working. He was found in much pain before he fainted on the floor and was taken to a nearby U.S. military clinic. Inside the clinic, he was given emergency surgery. My dad, like a cat with 9 lives, survived the surgery and was given another chance at life. That's sad to hear, but also I'm glad that he finally got help. He was in a bad position last time. Also, 9 lives thing. It's kind of funny when you think about it, because Markiplier's been to the hospital at least felt like once per year, and he looks like he's dying every single time, so it's kind of funny thinking like he possibly got the luck of surviving multiple things from his grandpa. Yeah, that's the right familial word. Although my dad enjoyed his work, simultaneously he never gave up hope of uniting with his family wife and child in North Korea. He never considered remarrying until the age of 27 when he met my 19-year-old mother. My mom was the youngest daughter of the most affluent farm family in her town. Their meeting had been arranged by Miss Chang, who took my dad to my mom's beautiful, spacious farmhouse in the village of Seongri. From the moment they set eyes on my dad, my mother's parents were enchanted with his charming appearance, good looks, intelligence, and social grace. Shortly after their meeting, my grandparents offered to pay full marriage expenses, including an old-fashioned photograph shoot to capture the moment of the traditional Korean wedding. And there's some pictures. Hopefully y'all can see those. Hey. Sorry, my cat is love to bother me. Second I'm ever recording, and only when I'm recording. Alright, come here. Come on. Shortly after meeting, my grandparents offered to pay for the full marriage. After my parents got married, they bought a small 2-bedroom house in the town of Paju, near where my dad worked. Before I was born, my mom had already given birth to 2 daughters. Traditionally, it was very important to bear a son to carry the family's name, and their son was expected to look after them when they got... Where was I? They got older. When my mom found out that she was carrying me, she decided to visit a Buddhist temple with 5 pounds of rice as an offering to me to be a boy. She visited the temple to pray every chance she got. A few days before she delivered me, my mom had a very unusual dream that she'd had multiple times before my birth, so she easily remembered her dream. In the dream, she saw a beautiful angelic figure surrounded by a background of the entire high sky, plastered with all kinds of spectacular, sparkling, precious jewels. Yet my mom continued praying dearly for her son until the day I was born. My grandmother arrived just in time to help my mom deliver me in the house. This was a common practice in those days with the help of a skilled midwife. I was born at exactly 7 a.m. during the spring solstice on March 20th, 1964. My mother diligently recorded each child's birth, time, and date. Later, according to tradition, she would take the information to her fortune teller and find out my future. Sunok Frank was born in 1964. This is a cute little picture of her. Right there. Hopefully it's a good shot. At the moment of my birth, I was totally rejected by my mom. In her eyes, I was useless and no good. Just one more girl to add to her burden. Feeling like a failure, she became utterly despondent and did not even fulfill out my official birth record until late May of that year. Finally, my grandmother decided to name me. She called me Sunok. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Meaning angel's jewels, remembering my mom's recurring dream while she was pregnant. That's kind of upsetting that your mom didn't put the time and effort into you. I hope everything worked out in the future between y'all. The two. I'm talking as if I'm speaking to them. But yeah, that's super sad, but also beautiful that a birth was made and that her father actually found someone. We're going to read chapter 3. It's called My Traumatic Childhood. Beginning when I was very young, I had an unusual ability to accurately recall events that happened around me at different times. I felt that my life has been spared by the power of my guardian angel for an unknown reason. When I was about 2 years old, I almost died from drowning. I had wandered across the narrow street in the front of our house and tumbled into a very deep ditch filled with running wastewater, while under the care of my irresponsible 8-year-old sister, Hoak, While my mom was away at the market, I heard later that my body had been carried a long distance by a forceful stream. At the critical moment, a stranger who was passing by noticed my hand poking out of the water. The stranger ran toward me and pulled me out of the stream and saved my life. When I was older, I asked my sister about the incident. All she said to me was that it wasn't just an accident, but at the same time, she added that my parents were very upset that night and grounded like her. That's upsetting. With my mom when I was 5 months old in Korea. (1964). A couple years later, when I was 4 years old, my mom gave birth to my next sister named Sunhee. It's gotta be upsetting. I mean, for them, because like your tradition revolves around boys becoming the head of the household, and you give birth every single time to a female, and your tradition is gonna be upheld normally, and you probably begin to get looked down upon in this time. Around the time, my mom's dad passed away suddenly. My grandparents lived a long distance away. Out of respect for my grandfather, my entire family took public transportation to get my granddad's funeral. When we arrived, I saw everyone there sobbing, crying loudly, and wearing white traditional mourning clothes. Not fully understanding their sorrow in the situation, I was greatly affected by their distress, and it made a lasting impression on my young mind. A few days after the funeral, I awakened to a heavy silence in my grandparents' spacious room, which had been previously full of people. After looking around, I realized that my family had left, the quietest, most docile middle child in my grandmother's care. I felt sad and totally alone. However, I slowly began to adjust. Since my grandmother owned farming properties, she kept herself busy tending to her vegetable garden and rice fields. My stomach was always full since my grandma loved to cook and share with me, and her short-haired, very tall, muscular white dog. After each meal time, my grandmother would call her dog, and he would appear out of nowhere to feed on our leftovers. He would ferociously gobble them up, leaving no crumbs before he disappeared into the thin air. The dog looked dignified, graceful, and well-mannered. At such a young age, the dog had opened my heart to the healing process a beloved animal could provide to the broken heart. He did. I greatly missed my sisters and my parents, but I decided not to make a fuss. I behaved because I didn't want others to think I was bothering them. I hoped that my mom would come for me someday soon. As time passed, I noticed that my grandma had a morning ritual, and I began to enjoy watching her. At the crack of dawn, a rooster would crow. As I lay in bed, still half sleeping, I watched my grandma sit on the floor in front of her small makeup box with a folding mirror attached. After she adjusted the mirror, she would brush her long, thin, salt and peppered hair slowly and carefully before twisting into a bun and securing it with a silver pin to finish it. She would use expensive camellia oil on her hair to make it shiny. Although she was a new widow and farmed the fields, she continued to take pride in her appearance. That's kind of sad. You get left alone with your grandma, and you don't know if your parents would ever come back. There was a time when I go to people's houses alone without my mom, when I was younger, I feared for some reason that would, just the process of not having a parent there would be scary, and the fact that your guardian would just kind of leave you. I was left in a spacious house alone. There was no electricity at the farmhouse, so I contented myself with watching clouds, which prompted me to use my imagination and tell stories. Then I could use a stick to draw the stories I imagined in the dirt. This was my only entertainment. My mother's side of the family, my grandmother, my grandfather, aunts, uncles, Korea, 1960s. It's a big family. There's there's at least 20. Us Americans, we do not get that big a family. I don't know if that's because we're afraid of overpopulation, or we just don't care to have that many kids anymore. Because I know it's part of tradition and all that to have large families in some parts of the world. And here we kind of we limit ourselves sometimes. In front of my grandmother's farm stood a very distinguished looking building called a mill house. My young mind was curious, wondered how anyone could live there other than hungry sparrows perched on the gutter. These birds looked desperately for food during the winter and springtime after I moved in. One day the machines awakened from their long winter nap. I heard an unusually loud chunking sound coming from the formerly quiet building as the machine started removing the husk and the bran of grain that the farmers had harvested from their fields that fall. I watched with fascination as the farmers' cows arriving in front of the mill house pulled the wagons filled with stacks of grain. During the harvest time, my mom reappeared in my life. Later, I heard from my grandmom's conversation with my aunt that when my mom was pregnant with her fifth kid, my mom had been discussing her upcoming birth plans with them. My aunt, older than my mom, lived with a few miles of walking distance from my grandmother's house. Despite my disappointment, my mom did not take me back to her home. Are you done now? Sorry about that, y'all, neighbors. My mom's pregnancy, combined with her other responsibilities, might have given her a reason to leave me behind. However, I was about to experience the most unthinkable events shortly after my mom left. After my mom was gone, my aunt continued to stay at the grandma's house with her daughter, Inja. The following day, when it was time for them to leave, the adults decided that I would go home with my aunt and Inja. The prospect of continuing my friendship with Inja made me excited, and I was soon following them to their small village called NobodiumYt. To reach their village, I had to walk miles on a small path between endless rice fields. At the end of the rice field, we walked on a narrow road, though a beautiful forest, for about a mile, across a shallow, clear, running stream coming from nearby mountains. By the time my feet had to start to ache, but Inja assured me that we were almost there. Suddenly, Inja's idyllic, sleepy, small village appeared in front of me. I was mesmerized by the new surroundings. The village was built around a bubbly spring that flowed into a pond where people did laundry, washed dishes, and carried water buckets to their homes. Before the water flowed down to irrigate the rice fields, my mom was married and had 2 teenage boys and 3 girls. Inja was the youngest child. Their house had 2 bedrooms to sleep in. My grandfather 60 and my grandmom they're 80. It's cool seeing these older photos. I'm glad they included them, shared a little bit about their family and how they looked and the time and how cameras looked then too. One night after I played all day with Inja at the end of the rice field, exhausted, I rolled into bed and lay right next to Inja, then quickly went to sleep. To my surprise, during the dark, quiet night, I felt sharp pain that was coming from my private area. I was overcome with terrible fear since I did not know how to react. I was totally frozen by fear before I realized that Inja's teenager, nicknamed Troublemaker, was sexually molesting me. Oh my God. I'm so sorry that happened. Oh, that is so bad. I could not remember exactly how the nightmare ended. I was in shock, but I have memory of me crying uncontrollably while sitting next to my aunt in the middle of the night. My aunt did not scold me for crying while she changed my soiled pants. I desperately wanted to get away from there to be with my mom. I sobbed myself to sleep. The next day I realized that my safe little world had now changed into a dangerous place for me. Still, the following day, everyone went back to the usual business as if nothing had ever happened to me. That's messed up. I doubt the boy got too in trouble. He might have got scolded at, but he probably didn't care. I was 5 years old when Troublemaker molested me. From that moment, I became scared of men, and I could not make any eye contact with them. I lost my smile. Honestly, I chose to always frown, and I rarely ever laughed. Frowning became my defense mechanism. Later, my mother's friend pointed out to my mom that I frowned all the time. When I was 6 years old, I was sent back home to start to school. To my surprise, when I arrived home, nothing was the same as I remembered. My family had relocated from Paju and to Anjouanri, the U.S. military base where my father worked and had been moved. Our new home was now in Anjouanri. Shortly after I started enjoying our new home, my mom gave birth to my youngest sister, Buyon. My mother announced that she had been given up trying to produce a son for good. Dang. And going for like a boy and then you just keep rolling females is insane. I guess that must be just really strong genetics. Finally, I was home to stay. My parents gladly sacrificed to pay my tuition and enrolled me in school for the first time. I was extremely shy but well-mannered student. I found it easy to understand and apply everything taught by my first grade teachers. During first grade testing, many of the test answers seemed to come to me out of thin air. If the question asked what color, what would red and blue become? When mixed together, I would simply close my eyes, mix them in my head, then I would focus, see red and blue, turn into a beautiful color of purple. In class, I noticed that not only did I excel academically, but also I had become quite popular among my classmates despite my shyness. My classmates even elected me as class president during all of my early school years. At home, for the first time in my life, I started to feel that I had become the apple of my mother's eye. My mom was pleasantly surprised and proud of me since none of her other children had ever excelled or been recognized in school. Even the neighbors, my mom accepted her as her friends, started to call out to my mom, "Hi, mother of Sunak." During my early years, I only knew what the world that I was born into. My entire worldview changed, however, the day I accidentally stumbled upon a 4-inch thick Sears catalog. It remains a mystery how long it got into It remains a mystery how I got into our house. But the moment I opened it and turned the pages, my young mind started screaming for joy. Compared to the simple lifestyle I was born into, the catalog opened my eyes to a whole new world. I couldn't help but focus on page after page of beautifully decorated bedding covering high beds, complete with matching window treatments. The beautiful skinny women models were wearing fantastic clothing. To me, it was a world of unknown that had been hidden from my sheltered life of no TV and no phone. I was clueless about how to make beautiful things come into my life. Perhaps the Sears catalog planted the seed for me to leap out of my existing reality. I did not ask anyone but this wonderful life that was hidden from me because people around me seemed accepting of their mundane lifestyle. However, every night before I went to sleep in our one-bedroom home, shared by my parents and my sisters, I lay on my thin mattress on the floor, eager to escape my humble existence. Each night before I went to sleep, I would pray that the next day I would wake up to find myself getting out of a beautiful bed, opening my closet to put on the gorgeous clothing I had seen over and over in the Sears catalog. Additionally, before I fell asleep each night, I would even write down my picks on each page. Yet, every morning I woke and to face the harsh reality of my simple existence. I felt forever stuck. One day, my dream book disappeared, stolen by an unknown someone. I stopped dreaming at that point. Looking back on the period of my life, I realized that my vision would manifest a few years later. I still had lessons to learn before my dreams became reality. Meeting my future husband, Mr. Fishbog. And I assume that might be him. Yeah, it is him, judging by the photo at the front. Big, beautiful colored photo. Hope y'all see that. Ugh. But yeah. I think that's a good stopping point for today. If you like this video, or me reading, probably not good, bomb that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the next one. Alright, hope you have a fantastic day, and bye-bye!